Good morning. My name is Jeff Smink. I'm the Interim Executive Director at the EdTrust-New York. EdTrust-New York is a statewide advocacy organization focused on educational justice for all students, but particularly for students of color and students from low-income backgrounds. And I'm thrilled to be here with so many of our partners today to officially launch the New York Campaign for Early Literacy. 2 years ago, EdTrust-New York decided to prioritize early literacy because we knew that first and foremost, being able to read is a civil right and a human right. We also know that being able to read proficiently by the end of third grade impacts everything that we care about as an educational equity organization. It's the most important indicator of future student success. If you can't read, school is a struggle, both academically and socially. We know that when students in the communities that we care most about are not taught to read, they're 8 times more likely to drop out of school. And we know that dropping out can lead to a host of negative life outcomes, including incarceration and poor health. But we also know that when students are taught to read, it opens doors to a much brighter future where anything is possible. As famous Rochester resident Frederick Douglass stated, once you learn to read, you will forever be free. All the partners here believe that very deeply. And we also know that research shows that 95% of all children, regardless of background, can learn to read with the right support. Yet across New York State, less than half of all third graders are reading proficiently. In my hometown of Rochester, less than 20% of students are reading proficiently. And that's just unacceptable when we know how important reading is. It's even more unacceptable when we know there's settled science about how children learn how to read. Yet, as our call to action report that we released last year shows, too many school districts across New York and too many teacher preparation programs are not following the science. And that's why we're launching the New York Campaign for Early Literacy. We have over 80 partners, including parents, early childhood advocates, educators, superintendents, summer and after school programs, public TV, libraries. All of our partners believe that all children can read with the right support, beginning at birth, inside and outside of school. The New York Campaign for Early Literacy will work to continue to build awareness and urgency about the literacy crisis facing our state. We'll advocate for state and local policy changes to ensure all children receive evidence-based instruction. And we'll support effective implementation of those policies by amplifying best practices and monitoring early literacy outcome data. In closing, this is a solvable crisis. And when it's solved, we believe it will address a number of challenges facing communities across the state. I'd ask you to imagine what your school or community might look like if 95% of children were taught to read. Imagine how much more joyful and engaging a 4th grade classroom would look and feel for both for students and for teachers. And imagine the amazing things that our children will accomplish when thousands more are provided with the right to read. Our goal is to make that dream a reality, and we look forward to partnering with you in the coming months.
Good morning. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, EdTrust-New York. And thank you to everybody who has been fighting for years, mostly in the dark, about New York State's literacy crisis. And you might ask yourself, why does Assemblymember Bobby Carroll, from a well-resourced district, from a place where reading scores aren't so low, care so much about literacy? Why do I care so much about our school's literacy crisis and so many kids who are struggling? I care because that opportunity to learn to read was almost denied to me. Those words that Jeff just quoted from Frederick Douglass, that once you learn to read, you are set free, I understand that. I understand that because I remember at 6 years old at PS 230 in Brooklyn, New York, that I couldn't read at all. I couldn't recite the ABCs, couldn't spell my name. And I had a teacher who didn't wish it away, didn't say, well, he's a boy, or, oh, you know, he's young for his age. They told my parents. They told my parents they suspected that I was struggling with dyslexia. And then something very lucky happened to me. My parents had means and opportunity They were able to get me a neuropsychological evaluation at Columbia University Medical School. That neuropsych then confirmed what they suspected, which is I did have dyslexia. And then something again lucky happened to me. My mother was tenacious and was able to go find a school in the middle of the year of this, my second grade year, on the Upper East Side of Manhattan called the Gateway School. And she convinced them to take me in the middle of second grade. They had never done that before. They still do that to this day because of her. And then for middle school, I got lucky again. I went to the Windward School. Both these schools specialized in teaching and remediating children who struggled with dyslexia. But the crazy thing is, and what I always thought, there was lots of shame, there was lots of anguish. It was not the most fun time. I wouldn't suggest you should repeat it if you don't have to do it. But I realized it's a tragedy to have to be lucky to learn to read. And that's what happens throughout our state every single day. Children who are struggling with dyslexia, but a huge swath of children for a ton of different reasons, mostly structural, sometimes because of systemic racism, sometimes because of disinvestment. We have a generation of children not getting fundamental skills, and that's why I've introduced the Right to Read Act. It's not just about phonics, it's about the 5 pillars of literacy, which if you don't know, it's phonics, it's phonemic awareness, it's vocabulary, it's comprehension, it's fluency. So now you know. It's about teacher training and professional development, and it's about resources for our public school to get reading teachers in every single school and to get screening for things like dyslexia in every single school. So we know if there's a problem, we know how to address it and remediate it. If we do that, we're going to change our schools. We're going to change the future of hundreds of thousands of kids. They will have agency, and the sky will be the limit. Because there's no better opportunity in the world than to be a kid in New York with the ability to read. But if you're a kid in New York and you can't read, well, then the sky isn't the limit. And so we can get this done. We can make sure that New York is a leader, like it's been a leader on so many progressive issues, so that no kid has to be lucky to learn how to read. And for those who think that this effort is somehow against our public schools or against our teachers, I want to leave you with one final thought. My mom was so traumatized by what happened to me. She went back to school, became an Orton Gillingham specialist and reading teacher, and taught in New York City public schools for 20 years, taught kids how to read. That's what this is about. This is about teaching children to read. And if you've ever actually had that problem, you know that you can't be for justice, you can't be for equity, you can't call yourself a progressive if you don't think we should teach all our kids to read. So I really want to thank Jeff, the entire EdTrust crew, Ashara Barker, every single person who's got a different story than I have, but is here for one reason, to teach our kids how to read. We need to get a lot more assembly members and senators on board with this, but I know we can get this done this year. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get this bill passed.
Thank you for coming here today to discuss a matter of paramount importance. Literacy is the bedrock upon which the future of our students in Schenectady, but across this great state of New York, rests. Today, I want to shed light on what we are doing in Schenectady to prioritize literacy and how through a collaboration and commitment, we have garnered the support of not only our educators, but our community as a whole. When I assumed the responsibility of leading our Schenectady City School District, it became evident that literacy is the linchpin to unlocking the full potential of every student in our district. I initiated a dialogue with our dedicated educators and leaders, illustrating the transformative power of literacy and what it holds in shaping the trajectory of our students' lives. Together, we recognize that achieving buy-in required not only just a vision, but a plan that is grounded in evidence-based practices and a commitment to the science of reading. And I'm proud to share that the instructional resources in Schenectady School District are now evidence-based. They are meticulously aligned to the science of reading. This means that we're not just teaching children to read, but we're imparting them the essential skills and the comprehension strategies to empower them to navigate a complex and ever-evolving world. Our effort is not merely an initiative. It is systematic, permeating every classroom in our district. Literacy can no longer be confined to just the English classroom. It is a thread woven into the fabric of our entire educational system, whether it's in mathematics, science, social studies. Literacy is the bridge that connects knowledge to understanding. And so I want to stress to you this morning that the science of reading goes beyond traditional phonics instruction. It encompasses a holistic approach, recognizing the interconnectedness of phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Our educators are becoming equipped with the knowledge and the resources to address the diverse needs of our students, ensuring that no child will be left behind in Schenectady and be headed towards a journey of literacy. While we're making significant strides, we still need help and support. Increased funding from New York State could be the catalyst that our efforts need to move much further. Additional resources will enable us to invest in professional development for our educators, school leaders, and also allow us to provide targeted interventions for struggling readers and ensure access to cutting-edge instructional materials which continuously evolve with the latest research. In closing, literacy is not just a skill. It is the key that opens the doors to opportunities to empower our youth, strengthens the foundation of our community. Together, let's continue to be champions in the cause of literacy, knowing that the dividends it pays extend beyond those of the school walls. Thank you for your unwavering support in this crucial endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And by the way, that comes from Assemblymember Simon, who I cut to speak first. That's how gracious you are. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andy Hevesy. Forgive me for giving you my back. I'm the chairman of the Children and Families Committee. I'm going to speak very briefly about the importance of literacy, but I'm going to do it from a different angle. So we all know and agree that literacy is the key to success, to unlocking success in life. And I'm joined by my Senate colleague, former Assembly member, Shelley Mayer. Give her a round of applause since I just interrupted. But let me look at this from a different angle. So as Children and Families Chair, what we are looking for is ways to eliminate adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma. The reason why we do that is because we understand the science, which tells us that the more children are traumatized, the more their body produces the hormones that change the function and dynamics of the prefrontal cortex, physical change. And that causes kids to have trouble with their executive function skills, which are the skills they need to get through life. Why am I boring you with this? One, I want you to think I'm smart. And number two, I want you to understand the importance of literacy at this age. At this age, when parents and kids are engaging, they're engaged in a process called serve and return. That is the fundamental connection before kids can speak of seeing and understanding not only what they're reading, but having that connection. The reason why that is so important is the number one way to fight adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma is the one social connection that you have with a caring adult. So by boosting early literacy, you are preventing childhood trauma. I know it's a little bit of a leap, but that's what we're doing here, and it is so crucially important to protect kids from that level of trauma, have kids from an early age trust that the adults that they're dealing with are going to be with them and supportive of them, which is what they need to get through life, and then unlock the doors to success. I'm so grateful to Assemblyman Carroll and all of my other colleagues, Assemblymember Simon, who is still better than me, even though she's waiting. I'm so grateful for all of my colleagues here for leading this fight, and I'm honored to be with you today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Sydney Sophia Russell, and I am the Alumni Coordinator for Read Alliance and a former teen leader or tutor while in high school. Read Alliance is here in solidarity with EdTrust-New York to elevate the importance of expert nonprofit organizations who have been advancing early literacy outcomes for decades in collaboration with schools and educational leaders in the state. Read's unique and impactful model pairs high school students one-on-one with early elementary students striving to read. The high school students, called teen leaders, are paid for their important roles as tutors and mentors and gain valuable work experience and a paycheck while serving their community. The readers, kindergartners, first graders, and second grade students, improve more than a grade level in reading in just one cycle. I am here to tell you my story as a teen leader and how our near-peer magic is changing lives. I'll never forget Josiah, the first young boy I tutored during the summer of 2015. On the first day of the program, I remember his energy walking into the classroom was vibrant and his eyes filled with excitement. That is, until he sat alongside his peers and learned he'd be spending part of his summer setting aside time to read. Needless to say, he wasn't happy about that. After getting to know Josiah, it became evident that his reluctance to read stemmed from a lack of confidence in reading skills rather than any deficit in his abilities. After cheering him on and offering a few of his favorite Spider-Man stickers, Josiah began reading and practicing words that were difficult for him. Read focuses on using phonics-based instruction to help striving readers achieve success, so he repeated the correct sounds after me and then said them on his own. My turn, Sam. Your turn, Sam. Our turn, Sam. Before long, Josiah went from looking forward to earning a few of his favorite stickers to looking forward to the rewarding feeling that reading confidently gave him. He graduated from our program with that same vibrancy he walked in with, only this time leaving a stronger reader and with greater confidence. It is an experience that not only fulfilled him as a young student It is an experience that not only fulfilled him as a young student who grew as a better reader, but I also grew as a young teenager who was able to witness firsthand my positive experience. And I now have the honor of working with Read alums who share this transformative experience. Read Alliance stands with and for all young children. We believe they all have the power and potential to read and succeed. Thank you.
So good morning. I'm Assemblymember Joanne Simon. I represent downtown Brooklyn and a lot of the brownstone neighborhoods. So I am very, very excited to be here today because this effort of literacy, as we know, starts very early in life. And just a little bit of background, you know, I was trained as a teacher of the deaf in preschool. And so the primary language learning years are 0 to 3. And so starting at 0 starts that literacy ball rolling. And if you are not hearing enough words, if your parents are working 2 jobs, they're not talking as much to young children. So it is important to have words, more words, books in the home. But we also know that we can start seeing those kids who are struggling, or maybe struggling, early on in pre-K. So we need to improve everybody's understanding of what those warning signs are. And so I'm also a former president of New York Dyslexia Association, the IDA in New York. And one of the things that I would talk about all the time is we know that roughly 35% of our kids will learn to read no matter what you do to them. I'm one of those kids. But that was not true for one of my brothers and one of my sisters, large family. And I learned early on as a young person the importance of language for literacy and dealing with those reading disability issues. But if we can teach those kids who are the hardest to teach because of their dyslexia how to read using proven methods, why would we not do it for everybody? That is the big question, and that is the question we are answering with this new literacy effort. Everybody needs to learn to read. If 95% of people can learn to read, why are we not doing that? And it is, I believe, this is where my half a PhD in psychology comes in, 35% is intermittent reinforcement, which is tougher to shake. And so people think they're doing a good job when 35% are reading, but in fact it's not enough. It just feels like it's enough. So this is critically important. I'm really delighted to see that this effort starts at birth, which is so important. We need to emphasize early childhood. We need to fund early childhood. We need to fund quality daycare so parents can get to work and they can earn more money and they can improve their family's trajectory. So I am here to be supportive of these efforts. I'm also here to just speak up on behalf of all those young people who want to go out and teach, and they go to a higher education program, and they aren't being taught what the methods that are based in science. And that's another nut we have to crack, is in higher education, to make sure that our teachers of the future are properly trained, given the proper background. I do have a bill for that. I have two. So I encourage you to look at my website. Thank you very much. And again, thank you all. Thank you, Jeff, to EdTrust. Thank you to the schools. I was delighted to hear about Schenectady. We know Waterville Elite has been doing that. Lindbergh Public Schools on Long Island has changed everything around. I would say everybody needs to watch those programs, those school districts that are making positive changes, and learn from them. Because, you know, flattery is the best compliment, right? So imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. I got it, there we go. So let's imitate those programs that are changing things around and teaching all their kids to read. Thank you. Whoop. Going out with a bang. Here you go.
Thank you. So I'm Shelley Mayer. I represent the 37th Senate District, which goes from the city of Yonkers, important in this conversation, to the more affluent town of Pound Ridge. But as chair of the Senate Education Committee, I am so excited that EdTrust and this coalition, this campaign for early literacy, has put this issue on the map. Your advocacy, your report, your commitment to early childhood and to literacy is a game changer. Credit to the governor for hearing you and starting the conversation about how we can ensure children read. But I can think of, in my district alone, 3 programs that I have participated in that are not-for-profits, really focused on reading and early literacy. One, with 2 of them, with Spanish-speaking families to encourage reading at home and in public. Third, with one of our bigger groups to ensure that adults read to children on a regular basis. The fact is, these not-for-profits are taking up the space and doing the work that our education system has to do. We've got to get together and make this a priority. Thank you for being here and standing up for young people, particularly in our communities of color that are falling way too far behind in their ability to read. And reading is the key to success later in life, and we have an obligation, those of us who care about kids and education, to make this a priority. So thank you, EdTrust. Thank you for those who are here. Thank you for making sure that this issue is at the top of the pile when we discover what is our priority for this year. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Andre, and I'm the New York State Director for Parent Child Plus. We are honored to be with you here, and certainly we support all of our partners and certainly EdTrust for having this particular campaign. Parent Child's unique focus is on providing parents and other primary caregivers with the skills, knowledge, and materials they need to support school readiness in their primary residence, which is inside their home, and build home learning environments that support children's language, literacy, numeracy, cognitive, and social emotional skills. In other words, a holistic literacy approach. In doing this work, we are also helping parents learn what to look for in a child care setting, how to identify and access their children's next educational steps, and how to support their children's continued academic progress. Our partners work throughout the state includes school districts, BOCES, public libraries, school social service agencies, literacy programs, community health centers, immigrant aid organizations, community-based organizations, and we're a part of initiatives like Cities First Readers. Focusing on school readiness and early literacy supports for families living in communities challenged by poverty, isolation, limited educational resources, and language and literacy barriers. Parent Child Plus has provided over 46,000 home visitations and distributed over 23,000 books and educational toys statewide in 2023. We all know that the best chances for children's child success is before they enter school. So prior to entering pre-K or kindergarten, many of the children living furthest from opportunity and children from families with home languages other than English are being cared for by family members or informed home-based settings. So not only do we need to support daycare, we need to also support home-based child centers as well. These families are the least likely to have access to the information, the materials, and activities to build their children's school readiness skills and ensure that they have the language, literacy, and social and emotional skills that they need to enter a classroom ready to be successful students. On Tuesday, January 9th, Governor Hochul's State of the State address highlighted the critical importance of ensuring that children are reading on grade level. We at Parent Child Plus are grateful for her proposed investments in and future vision for the state of New York. However, we support the goal of enhancing supports for building children's reading skills as the key to educational success, and so that we can stop these educational injustices. The governor is proposing to train teachers in the scientific methodology of phonics and to provide up to $10 million to ensure that teachers are trained to do so. Teacher training and support are critical, but at Parent Child Plus, we know that the development of early literacy skills, a love of learning, and the social and emotional skills to navigate a classroom, and in fact, to learn to read begins well before they enter a classroom. So we work with children at the earliest ages, between the ages of 2 and 3, and we work through those years, and we supply them with a home library, books that they already have prior to them going to kindergarten ready. And for the most part, by the time they enter 3rd grade, we know this, they are already either at or beyond their 3rd grade, their more affluent peers, and are ready to pass the reading test scores. So we want to support and continue to support early literacy. We are grateful to be one of the partners at today's campaign, and we hope that the entire legislative branch, along with the executive branch, will support an increase in supporting early literacy. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Gutwillig, and I'm a longtime New York City special education teacher. Also, my 3 children graduated from the public schools. I'm also a longtime activist and member for Educators for Excellence. I was a part of their culturally responsive education team, and we worked really, really hard to get high-quality literacy instruction in the New York City schools, and that's what we call today New York City Reads. So it's really important for the city to adopt a curriculum that advances the 5 pillars of literacy instruction, which is phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. But one thing that's often left out when we talk about the science of reading is that the science of reading is really about knowledge building, because the brain loves a pattern. So in the classrooms, you have children studying topics all together, like frogs or heroes, and that's when you see children making the most advanced progress, is when there's a topic that everyone's discussing. So my colleagues at E4E demanded Mayor Banks and Mayor Adams and Chancellor Banks that we create the New York City Reads program, because there's a literacy crisis in New York City, where only 65% of our 3rd graders were able to read on level, and only 2/3 of Black and Latino 2/3 of Latino and Black students were not reading on grade level. So one thing that we've started, and it's just the first critical step, not only did New York City choose the 3 curriculum that would be chosen in all of the districts, we also wanted funding for professional learning and constant educator feedback loops. So I can speak to an experience in my classroom this year. I have a self-contained 12 to 1 class, and I have a student in my class who's 11, so he's in 5th grade, but he should really be in 6th grade, and he's reading on a 2nd grade level, and he has been stuck on that same level for lots and lots of years, and that's because he wasn't being taught the correct way. So just imagine how it feels to be in a classroom year after year with all of that failure. I mean, it doesn't make you feel good about yourself, needless to say. So recently we were talking about, putting on a talent show in our school, and what did this kid suggest that our class act out? Perseus and the Fall of Medusa, which was really an amazing thing. It was something that we had read about. And so that shows that how, if you have the right curriculum in the classroom, you can really change a child's life and make them feel confident and exciting. So this is one of the reasons that I'm here today, because I really back Governor Hochul's Back to Basics plan. We really need to recognize that that any amount of money that we receive is, of course, not going to be enough money. We need more money. And part of the money that we really need is so that all teachers have professional development. Remember that teachers are a target and they get criticized all day long, and they're the ones to blame. But it really wasn't our fault. We didn't choose that faulty curriculum from the past. So now it's time to really spend the money and work on things that are working for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. When I moved to Albany several years ago as a student, my first volunteer experience was with an after-school program that served immigrant and refugee students who were mostly English learners. As an assistant tutor, I remember referring back to my own experience as a child in Ghana and learning how to read by sounding 2-letter words and trying to identify the first or last sound in a word like dog. I would attempt to replicate that with my students and more, and in the few months that I worked there, I saw a notable improvement in their reading and speaking. As an advocate for after-school, summer, and other spending learning programs, I know how crucial these programs can be in building children's literacy skills. In fact, there's wide support from parents and caregivers, about 94%, for additional reading instruction outside of the school year and day. Expanded learning opportunities provide nurturing spaces to students to practice and develop their literacy skills through activities like storytelling, creative writing, theater, and more. They also help provide a year-round approach to literacy development, helping to address gaps effectuated by learning loss. After-school, summer, and expanded learning programs are also deeply embedded in the community, and they often do not only reflect staff and leaders who embody the cultural uniquenesses that define these communities, but also represent the diversity of resources and access these programs leverage to create a culturally responsive, equitable, and inclusive environment for their students to learn. These programs also offer great avenues for distributing early literacy resources to students and for families, networks to support themselves and their children's early literacy journey. I strongly believe that schools and families should not in isolation address the literacy challenge alone, as has already been addressed. After-school, summer, and expanded learning programs can be ideal partners in providing high-quality early literacy support and should therefore be essential in efforts to transform the state's early literacy outcomes. And this is why we joined with EdTrust to really amplify the need for early literacy support in New York. Thank you.
All right, let's close it out. We got a loud hall today. The National Parents Union is extremely grateful to be a part of this important and exciting milestone. Thank you to the EdTrust-New York, Assemblymember Bobby Carroll, and our fellow legislators. This is an awesome space to rally up around a very tremendous and important movement. I'm so proud to be a part of this group of advocates and thought partners in this movement, but I want to make it very clear. As we clap and we cheer in this moment, we need to understand the road that is before us. There will be doubt. There will be pushback that will be laid out before us. As a parent of a second grader who is struggling to read, I have to constantly grapple with this moment of frustration and pain. Like any parent, we are all making a conscious effort to do right by our children. Some may opt out and attend certain school districts, while others will have additional resources to provide additional tutoring.
And others, a much larger percentage of others, will be on the other side of, what do I do? Where should I turn? But deep down inside, they all know that something isn't right. They know that their child isn't excelling the way that they should. I'm up here today to elevate those experiences and the voices and that pain. We are not done yet. We have yet to hit the moment of celebration. Our only passion and our drive should fill this moment today in this stairwell. Parents and advocates of the National Parents Union New York will not stop advocating for legislation for early literacy until the ink dries. And when that ink dries, our teaching colleges will prepare our next generation of educators. Our schools will be equipped with evidence-based resources for current teachers. And all of our children will finally be able to learn and thrive in literacy. I do want to give a personal shout out to Decoding Dyslexia New York, Teach My Kid to Read, the Reading League, Literacy Academy Collective, Dyslexia Advocacy Action Group, Dyslexia Alliance for Black Children, Dyslexia Allies of Western New York Education Alliance. These are the folks, the OGs who have been in this education justice and advocacy space and devoted their entire lives to this milestone. The milestone where we have all been finally heard when no one else would listen, and where we can finally see investments directly tied to measurable success for all of our children. This is the beginning of turning around our state's education system and addressing inequities in the declines. So again, let's remind us of this very moment to bottle up all these feelings and leave this space ready to advocate solely powered off of passion and drive for our children. Thank you.
So you've heard from great partners today. What we know is that New York State spends more than any other state in the country on education, and yet we rank 37th in reading proficiency in third grade. That's unacceptable, and we have to change it. And luckily, we know what the solution is. You heard the solution today. It's to invest in early literacy. And that means the Right to Read bill, which is sponsored by Assemblymember Carroll and Senator Hoylman-Siegel. And it's also investing in the earliest years. It's investing in those first 1,000 days of a child's life so that by the time they hit the pre-K classroom, they have the language foundation to move forward. So we're asking today for support across the state in early literacy. We hope that more interested and invested New Yorkers, parents, teachers, will become members of the New York State Campaign for Early Literacy. And we thank you again for all of your support today. Just thank you. We need to do better for our kids, and the campaign strives to do that. Thanks.